There we go. I'm someone that loves adventures in nature. I'm someone that loves to challenge my body and my mind. I've done a few things like Tough Mudder, I've done City to Surf, and this year I will be doing my first half marathon. And that is coming from someone that doesn't like running, doesn't like cardio, but loves to challenge herself. So you're never too old or never too young to try something new. I love calm mornings, especially by the beach. I no longer live at the beach. I live in sort of Bella Vista, Quakers Hill. But I did live in Port Macquarie for a little bit, and those early morning sunrises on the ocean and sunsets really made my day start well and finish well. I don't mind a good cup of coffee or some poached eggs on avocado toast while sitting in a cafe doing some work. I am someone that loves time with my family, my friends, and health and fitness is something that I'm very passionate about. I try not to let too much stuff get the best of me, although we are human and sometimes we do get caught out in low moments, but it's about looking for the positive. I do believe that there's always a positive in any situation. Sometimes you've just got to look a little bit harder and you will find it. So I am a personal trainer, I'm a movement and wellbeing coach. I specialise with helping office workers that are quite sedentary to really transform out of that stress, soreness, lacking self-esteem mindset and physical place we can get to into a state of renewed, energized vitality. So I'm bringing my passion that I had when I worked in the corporate world with my passion that I've always kind of had for fitness and health together. And I really just want to see more people, wherever they are in life, living the life that they deserve and living a life that is full of happiness and health. Once we lose our health, the quality of life deteriorates, and it's not actually a nice thing to see. So I want to try and prevent that or prolong that process if we can wait till we're much, much older to really enjoy and thrive. I do believe that a positive mindset and healthy habits can create magic. I believe that it's a bit like a garden. Is anyone here a gardener? Got a couple gardeners. So imagine if you see a couple weeds in your garden and you just leave them. I'll get back to them, when I'm not so busy. 6 months goes by, you've had some beautiful rainfall, some, great sunshine. Suddenly those couple weeds are not a couple weeds anymore. Instead of spending 5 or 10 minutes in your garden, you're spending half a day in your garden. You may even notice that their flowers aren't blooming as much as they have in the past. I believe that's a lot like our mindset and our health. If we don't prioritize it and do something when we first notice things are starting to get out of control, it can become a lot harder to change that down the track. So, a month of bad habits is not so hard to unwind. A year of bad habits, maybe a little bit harder. 10 years of bad habits is much, much harder. So I like to use analogies, and a garden analogy is one that I often use because I think most people can appreciate walking down a beautiful path that's got well-manicured lawns, beautiful budding flowers and roses that they can smell along the way that really just lifts the mood, compared to walking down a path that's overrun with weeds and no flowers. It's a different kind of energy. So I want to sort of spread that message about us all creating beautiful gardens within ourselves that can then flourish and shine to the people around us. I moved to Sydney in 2023, but prior to that, I had actually considered moving here 2 years earlier. I went to a book tour in Sydney. It was my first time actually staying in Sydney. I'd sort of flown in and out, but I hadn't stayed in Sydney. And in the intermission part of that, the presenter asked us to do a little task because part of his speech was the opposite of action is inaction. So if we aren't actually doing anything to help ourselves, to better ourselves, we're living in inaction, and that doesn't allow growth to occur. So I've still got the note on my phone. I remember thinking, I don't need to do this exercise, but I decided to. I decided it was important, and he's set us the task for a reason. And this is what my little note to myself said. It said I need to stop thinking about what could go wrong and think about what could go right, with leaving my job to move to the coast to choose a healthier, happier me. That was in 2021. It's now 2023, and I'm moving to Sydney to start that job. As a personal trainer, 2 years on, 2025, I've got this opportunity. So it really is important to stop worrying about what could go wrong and focusing on what could go wrong, because all you're going to see is the things that are going wrong. But if you stop and start thinking about what could go right and start looking at the things that are going right, then your world is going to open up. There's going to be beautiful miracles all around you. You're going to meet amazing people along the way. I actually got invited the month after that. I got invited to a week-long leadership camp. It was a Rotary Youth leadership camp. Has anyone ever heard of RYLA? No? So it's something that Rotary does each year. They send a bunch of young people, usually under the age of, I think it was 28, and I was 28 that year. So it was the last opportunity I had to go. There were 3 main topics or things that we were focusing on over that week. The first was our purpose, and that scared me because I didn't know what my purpose was. At that point, I knew I didn't want to be in the corporate world forever, but I didn't know what else I was going to do with my life. We also focused on our perception of ourselves and of other people, and learning not to judge someone based on how they look, but really get to know them. And in that week, some of the people that I met could see me so much clearer than I could see myself. When we sat in a round sort of circle and shared our first thoughts of people and then what we've now learnt about them over 4 days, a lot of people said I'd turned up in my activewear. She's probably a bit up herself. She's probably a little bit, sporty and competitive. And I was far from that. Far from that. And that was something that came out of it, was the ability of myself to step up and lead in a really kind way, and to let everyone feel included and important, no matter what their size, shape, background. So these people had only known me for a short time, and their perception of me was so much more positive than my own. And I thought that that was really beautiful, and it was a really strong message for myself to stop thinking about the wrong and start thinking about, the good that I had to offer. And the third thing that we were focusing on were our priorities. What did we want our life to really mean at the end? And no one really wants to think about the end, but one of the tasks that they had us do was write on an epitaph what we wanted our headstone to say. I'm 28. I don't want to think about that for at least 60 years, if I even have to. Someone else can write that for me. But what I wrote was, I want my life to have meaning, and I want to make a positive difference. That's what I wanted my life to be. So at the end of that, you go through this roller coaster of emotions, and we had to do a brief sort of 1 minute stand up and talk in front of everyone. There was 50 of us, and I remember thinking, I just have to do it first because I'll chicken out. And you weren't allowed to chicken out, you had to do it. We got a halftime intermission, and we went down and we sort of spent some time thinking and, just sort of letting everything come and go, because a lot of people had shared some really heavy stuff. And in that moment, I realised I needed to wait until the very end to actually get up and have the opportunity to share. And I didn't know why, but at the end, what I ended up getting up and sharing was, sometimes we want to rush. Sometimes we want to just get things done because then we don't have to think about it anymore. But by slowing down and letting people share and listen and feel what they are sharing, and letting them be vulnerable, something I've realised later on about myself is, as an empathetic person, you can absorb a lot of that. So right at the end, the mood was so heavy. I remember feeling it was beautiful, but it was heavy. And I got up and all I wanted to do was lift up the room. I just wanted everyone to finish feeling like, despite all the heaviness, we can all have light. There's light within us, and we can all shine, and we can all rise together. And when I used an analogy of, throwing a pebble into a lake and letting the ripples spread. By sharing your story with one other person, you can change that person's life. That person's life changes, they share their story with one other person, and suddenly that impact that you've had over time really starts to spread like a ripple. And then I didn't realise, but they actually then took us down to the lake, and we all picked up a rock and threw it in the lake, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I didn't know that was coming. So that event as well really started to change my life. So this is 2021. I then approached my boss and said, look, I want to move to the coast by the end of the year. It was something I'd said at the start of the year. We're now halfway through. I don't know how it's going to happen, but by the end of the year, I'm leaving and I'm moving to the coast. I need to be at the beach, and I don't know why. I got given the opportunity as one of the first employees to work completely remotely for that organisation. And in local government, as a personal assistant, which is my role, that's a bit hard to do, but COVID actually provided some great opportunities. As I said at the start, there's always a positive in every situation. Sometimes you just have to look a little harder. So I got to move remote and still keep working for the organisation, which did give me some purpose while I continued to figure out what my purpose was. After about 8 months, I'd been coming to Sydney a little bit and realised Sydney's a pretty cool place. There's lots of opportunity here. So I approached my employer and said, I think I'm going to move to Sydney. That means I can't come back frequently. It's a lot further away. I'm going to start my personal training business, and in June, I'm going to completely resign. So I gave them my 4 months notice so that they could recruit, because it's quite a process. So in June 2023, I became a fully self-employed personal trainer with no back safety net. I went all in. And when you throw yourself all in, sometimes, beautiful things can happen. Things like this, meeting all of you ladies, being here and having this opportunity. So in terms of today's overarching theme of accelerate action, what I want to really put across to you all is merely surviving is not okay. If we are trying to fake it until we make it, that's also not okay. I've done that before. Has anyone else done the fake it till you make it? I'll be fine, I'll just keep pushing. That's not okay. That's actually not living. That's surviving, and surviving is not okay. What we need to instead do is step out of our comfort zone. Do things that scare us, do things that challenge us, do things that are risky so that you can realize just how capable you really are. We all have so much more strength in us than we realize. It's scary, it really is. Doing anything new is going to be scary. But with daily intentional action towards your thoughts, towards what you're doing, and towards who you want to become, can make a huge impact. And that's how you accelerate action. You think, do, and be who you want to become. Before I continue, they've given me a whole hour with you ladies, so I feel even more privileged. I want to just do a quick little exercise with you all. What I would like you to do is to take your left hand and put it over your heart. I'd like you, if you want to, take your right hand and also put that over your heart. We're going to do some deep breathing because a lot of us don't breathe properly. So what we're going to do is try and take some big belly breaths, so all the way into your belly. So a big breath in, and then a big breath out, and even go, big breath in, big breath out. If you want, you can even close your eyes and just really feel that breath going all the way into your belly. And we've got 2 more breaths. And final breath. So deep breathing is something that you can actually do to help reduce cortisol. If you're anxious, if you're uncomfortable, if you're a little bit scared, deep breathing into your belly and just really slowing down your breath in through your nose and out through your mouth can be a really, really helpful way of just calming our nervous system. What I would now like you to do, while you've still got your hand on your heart, I'd like you to repeat these few words after me. I am enough. I am worthy of self-love. I am worthy of growth. I'm capable of amazing things. Because you are. So today's topic that they've asked me specifically to talk on is self-love and growth. In the little bit I've shared already, I hope you can see how much I've grown from someone who was really unsure, didn't know where she was going in life, to being here today. I would not have done this maybe even 2 years ago, but definitely not 4 years ago. What is self-love? Do I have anyone that would like to share what their thoughts of self-love is?
I don't know how to put into words sometimes. Yeah, for me, I guess it is recognising my own needs and acting on them.
Yep.
After a long time of putting everybody else's needs first. And the thing that you're saying about surviving, and it very much resonated with me.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. I met Sandra just before. I loved how colourful and vibrant she was with her outfit. Finding the needs that you have and fulfilling those needs after putting everyone else's needs first. Yeah, that's beautiful. Does anyone else want to share what their thoughts or feelings towards self-love are? No? Often when people think self-love, they think things like pamper sessions, massages, getting your hair done, going and buying a new outfit, maybe a new car, and that is self-care, which is a form of self-love. And as women, we often even neglect self-care. And that is a really important part of self-love. But what self-love really is, like the truest form of self-love, is about showing up for yourself every day, especially when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. It is not putting everyone else's needs before your own, which is what we often do. You're trying to chase a career, so you put everything into the career. You say yes to anyone that asks. You never say no. You work long hours. You take on more responsibility than you can handle. You've got kids. You've got a partner. You're putting all of their needs before yourself, doing everything that they need when they need, and never taking a moment even to go to the bathroom by yourself. It's something my sisters often would tell me about. Not even having a moment. Waking up already stressing about the day. So showing up for yourself every single day, especially when it's hard. It's treating yourself with kindness, with respect, and with compassion. We often do things that maybe we feel a little bit disappointed in. Maybe we think we shouldn't have done that. We're trying to be a better version of ourselves. And then the critical, inner voice takes over, and we start to think really, really hard things about ourselves. Really, like if you were talking to a friend, you wouldn't even say that to them, yet you're saying that to yourself. So treating yourself with kindness, respect, and compassion, to me, is what self-love means. It is making choices that support your well-being. As a movement and well-being coach, one of the other main ways we can really show up for ourselves and give ourselves self-love is actually looking after yourself. Last year at the end of 2023, I had a bit of a health scare. I went to the doctors because I had a bit of an itchy spot on my arm. They removed it thinking it was nothing, and it was actually a melanoma. So I had to go back and have a wider incision, and they recommended a lymph node biopsy just to make sure it hadn't spread. Because I was quite young, the risk of the melanoma progressing quite quickly was higher. So I had to have a second surgery, and I was thinking a little bit, maybe my ego was thinking I'll be fine to catch the train home. I don't have family in Sydney, it's just me. I had housemates at the time, and when I got to the hospital they said, no, you need someone to pick you up. And that was actually quite confronting. I had one good friend, but she was working and her husband couldn't pick me up, and my housemates were working, and I felt very alone. And looking after your own needs is one thing, but when medical conditions arise where you don't really have a choice, it can be hard, but it can also teach you a lot about yourself. So they told me at least 6 weeks I could not train, I could not lift any weights. I may even have to significantly reduce my exercise. Exercise is something that helps me with my mental health. It's something that helps me feel good about myself. And to be told for 6 weeks I wouldn't be able to, I said, I'll be back in 2. Again, my ego was talking, and for me to really sit in self-love and to be able to grow through that moment, there were some little complications, and it was at least 6 weeks before I was back in the gym lifting weights. I was not able to walk as much as I normally would, and I was in that moment thinking, I'm going to end up depressed, I'm going to end up really in a bad way mentally. I've got no family here, I've got no one to help look after me, I've still got to try and run my business because I need money. In that 6 weeks, I did not realize how much people around me could see how much I was suffering. I was putting on a happy face, a brave face, showing up for work still and doing what I could. And when I then reflected on that later on in the year, I thought this was a really good learning moment. Not only to look after your health and to actually go and see someone when you think you need help. Not only for a skin check. Going and seeing a dentist is another fear of mine. For you ladies, your breast screen, which was talked about earlier, like actually looking after your health and prioritizing your mental well-being is a really important part of self-love. So if you feel like you've maybe neglected that over the years, this is a little reminder, it's never too late to take the risk, to take a chance to change something about how you're currently living, and to really start to change how your life is going to continue to blossom. So start to take those weeds out, one weed at a time. Even if you just do a little patch of your garden now and then you leave it for a little bit to see how it feels and how it looks. Just start to weed out those negative thoughts, weed out those bad behaviors and habits that have accumulated over the years, and slowly, piece by piece, watering the garden with positive thoughts, watering the garden with, good behaviors, good habits, looking after your health every single day. And over time, that garden is going to start to blossom. Uh, I've lost a bit of track. I've got notes, but I've gone a little bit off tangent. I have still used my garden example. So for me as a movement coach, sometimes starting to encourage people to get into more regular movement habits, getting some daily activity in, can be hard. Sometimes with growth, there's two different types of mentalities that we have. It's fixed mindsets of this is who I am, this is how I've always lived, this is who I want to be. That fixed mentality is not a very healthy mentality for growth. It's thinking that challenges are hard. It's thinking that you don't know how to start. But all you have to do is take one step. Like a toddler learning how to walk. They don't know how to walk. It's not easy. But day by day they practice and suddenly they're running. Someone with a growth mindset, on the other hand, looks at an opportunity of starting a new movement routine or habit as something that they can do. So it's not, I don't enjoy exercise or exercise is hard. It's, I'm going to start with 5 minutes. And each day, do a little bit more. 5 minutes, everyone can achieve 5 minutes. It's one thing to understand self-love and growth, but what is stopping us from taking action? Because the opposite of action is inaction. And that is the thing that prevents us from truly blossoming. Sometimes you need to clip back the rose bush. It might not look great, but then that allows it to shine. So sometimes removing people, places, things from your life or lifestyle will let you blossom. I was surrounded by people that liked to drink most weekends, and suddenly I noticed I was drinking a little bit with them on the weekends. And when I actually removed myself from that environment, I went nearly a whole year without a single drink. So sometimes the people we surround ourselves with can either help us or hinder us. So we really need to take action, even if it's just one small action today, to start to grow. There's three main things, there's lots of things, but three main things I want to say or talk about today that stop our growth. Perfectionism. Thinking as women we need to be perfect. That we have to care for everyone else, and that means we're doing a good job. That we have to show up for everyone else, and that means we're doing a good job. That we're being as perfect as we can be, although we know we can't be perfect. What I instead want you to think about is taking small steps towards progress. So I don't know if anyone here is currently, does anyone here, I'm going to just ask, does anyone here currently perform any daily activity? Exercise, it doesn't have to be in a gym, going for a walk, going for a swim, doing some yoga, Pilates. I've got some hands up, some hands not too sure if they do or not. Today we're going to get moving a little later on. But even just a small step towards some kind of daily movement and not thinking it needs to be perfect. You know, if you think I can't walk very far, well, walk to the front gate and back. If you can't walk very far, walk to the end of the block and back. And over time, you're walking around the block. You might only be able to start with maybe 5 minutes of yoga or some kind of stretching or movement, and then build that up to 10 minutes. The second thing that often stops us from growing and challenging ourselves is the fear of failure, the fear of judgment. What will other people think? What if I fail and disappoint people? That was a big fear for me. I don't want to let my clients down. So I pushed through even the day after surgery. I don't want to disappoint my family. Like, I want to make something of myself in Sydney as a trainer and as a businesswoman. I didn't want to let people down. So yes, although I'd made that step, I was still regularly trying to convince myself that I couldn't fail. And it's not about failure, it's about sometimes you need to fail, sometimes you need to fall, so you can realize you do have the ability to get back up. And when you get back up, you get back up stronger. So people are more worried about themselves, but you never know who's watching you from a place of inspiration. So don't be thinking about judgment, don't be thinking about failure. Think about how that failure, if there is failure, can help you rise, and the people that you're going to inspire and lift up along the way. Because if we throw that pebble in the lake and that ripple starts to spread, it can make a big difference. And then the third thing, and especially in my world, in the gym, is the lack of time. So many people are time poor. Who here feels like they don't have time? Time to exercise, time to maybe eat healthy food. It's these young ones, you beautiful ladies, you're all like, I've got heaps of time. It's a Thursday at 11:30, I've got heaps of time. Lack of time is something that a lot of people do struggle with. And that is one thing that stops them from taking time for themselves, to really do the things that fill up their cup, that make them feel like they're living and truly living. What I would like people to start to do is actually reframing the time that they have as, and especially with movement, especially with exercise, especially with mindset and having a healthy, strong mind, is that it is an essential part of self-love and it's an energy investment, not a time expense. So you're not giving up half an hour to go to the gym or an hour to go to the gym. You're giving yourself an hour to lift your energy, to look after your mental well-being, to look after your physical health so that you can then enjoy the other 23 hours of the day. So it is an energy investment, not a time expense. A couple statistics. I love numbers. A lot of the people that I see in the gym come into the gym and they probably only they sign up for 12 months, barely use the gym, maybe stay for 3 to 6 months. Most people will work with a trainer, if they work with a trainer, for around 3 to 6 months. That's 45% of people. About 20% of people will work with a trainer for a year or more. And I have been very fortunate. I've just ticked over 2 years and one of my very first client is still with me today, which is quite huge because it means the impact that I'm having has been enough for that person to stay with me for 2 years.
Must be doing a good job.
As mentioned in my intro, I've helped at least now probably 80 people in their fitness journeys, their health journeys. But my approach is very much from the get-go, slow, steady, and we're focusing on how we can mentally enrich your life. So my business name is Move4Me. I want to encourage people to move their bodies for themselves, not for anyone else. And it's movement for mental enrichment. It's not about physical health. That is a plus side. That's the cherry on top of the dessert. That's the sprinkles. But moving your body, and especially strength training and building that strength and building that confidence, that resilience, the discipline, is going to mentally enrich your life. Because our mind is so powerful. Our mind will tell us we can't, so our body won't. If we tell our mind we can, our body may not be able to, but at least we've got a fighting chance. So my business is more focused around the mental side of training. Around 35 to 40% of trainers in gyms are female. We are underrepresented. 60% of women are in the gym. Out of the total population that are in the gym, 60% are women. So there's more women in the gym than men, but there is less than 40% of female trainers. In our industry, there is about 80% of trainers leaving the industry in the first 12 months. There is a really, really high turnover rate due to the challenges faced with actually building a client base, due to the inconsistent income, especially through winter. It is really hard. A lot of people just don't want to come out, don't want to look after themselves. There are a lot of people that do, but there's a lot of inconsistent income. And as I said before, about 30 to 40% of people will work with a trainer for 3 to 6 months. So you're constantly trying to find more clients and help more people. And a lot of people lack the business skills. So I was very fortunate coming from a job that had a very high administration requirement that I could do basic business. There's a lot I don't know about business. So I've actually partnered with I'm working with a business coach to help me. But a lot of people don't invest in themselves. And that is a huge form of self-love, is investing in yourself. And for me, investing in my business to actually help me grow and to help me learn along the way. Around 35% of small businesses are owned by women, which is amazing because it actually is a 46% increase over the last 2 decades. So I feel very fortunate to be one of those and to be a trainer that has survived more than 1 year in the gym because that success rate is very low as well. Before I move on to the next part of what I want to talk about today, we're going to get up and move our bodies because I'm a movement wellbeing coach. And if you are a bit anxious about standing up right now, maybe your legs aren't very strong, you're not sure if you're capable, it's only going to be for maybe 1 or 2 minutes. And you can do this from a seated position if you'd prefer to stay sitting. But the best thing we can do, not only to learn, to open up our mind to opportunities, is to move our body and to get endorphins flowing. So we're going to just stand up where you are. For about a minute or two, we're just going to get our bodies moving. If you need to have a little bit of room to move, just spread out a little bit, there is room. What we're going to start with doing is a very basic move, and if you need to hold on to something, you can. It's just lifting our knees up nice and high. Lifting our knees up nice and high. Or as high as you can if it's just a little bit of a march, because we've been sitting for a while now, and we haven't had blood flowing into our legs. All right, now what we're going to do, if you can, we're going to do just some little air squats and lifting our arms up. Getting our legs. You might hear some cracks and some pops and some groans and some dissatisfaction. These noises mean you need to start moving your bodies more. You need to get them moving. And now if you've got room, what we're going to do is we're going to sit, and as we stand, we're going to reach. Sit. As you stand, reach across your body. So we're getting our upper backs moving. As we get a little bit older, as we sit for long times, we end up getting very stiff in our upper back. I'm loving seeing everyone's having a go. Even if we're still sitting, which is beautiful, we can still move our arms, we can still move our legs. Now what we're going to do, bringing our feet a little bit closer, we're going to reach our arms up to the sky before I take anything out, and turn those palms up, open up your chest, and then give yourself a big hug. And then you're going to reach your arms up, palms to the sky, open up your chest, and then give yourself a big hug. Something else that happens with us in this day and age with our phones, we're always crowding our chest. We want to open that up. We're going to go one more. Big reach to the sky, and a big hug. And something else we don't move is our necks. So what we're going to do is some big shoulder rolls. And remember to breathe when you're doing this. We practice our breath before, big breaths into the belly, and we're going to go forward. And we're going to tilt our heads now. So we're going to look to one side. You might look to the person next to you, give them a nice little smile. And then to the other side. And we're going to look up to the sky, or in this case, the roof. Well, we're going to look down to the ground. Coming back to the center, drop one ear towards your shoulder, and then you're going to nod yes. Yes, I love being here with Dee today, moving my body. I did not think I was coming for exercise. And now we're going to do a no. Nod your head no. No, it's not so bad after all, is it? And now we're going to do the other side. Nodding yes. And no. And to finish off, we're going to lift those high knees again. Even if you're sitting, you can still do some seated marches. And another good thing that's great for our hamstrings is to reach forward and stretch out the back of our body. So crossing our arms on our chest, soften your knees just a little bit, and then bring your chest down towards the ground. And standing back up. Bring your chest down to the ground, and standing back up. And if you feel capable, you're going to do that, and then you're going to reach forward. And then stand up. And reach forward, and stand up. And last one, reaching forward and standing back up. Thank you all so much. Hopefully you feel a little looser, maybe a little happier for moving your body. Thank you. Take a seat, and I'm going to continue sharing with you. I'm just going to grab a quick drink. Have some deep breaths if you need. I just heard a comment that there was some crackles of knees and neck, which is always a bit worrying, but also good. It means that you're getting blood flowing through the body. You're getting joints and things moving that maybe haven't been moving. So thank you for actually taking a little risk, maybe getting a little uncomfortable, trying something that maybe your body doesn't normally do. That was only a minute or two. That's how easy it can be, just to do something that's a little bit different, and over time doing a little bit more of that. I now want to share 3 main lessons that I've learnt over my short time on this earth, but also over probably the last 5 years. I really think 2019 was a turning point for me. I had gone through some bad relationships in my early 20s, and by my mid-20s I decided I didn't want to continue on this path. This path was covered in weeds, and I wanted to find a different garden. But it's not about finding a different garden, it's about building a different garden. And that takes time, it takes patience, and over time it starts to blossom. So I'm only just starting to plant some seedlings now, and I do think in the next 5 or 10 years when I look back, that garden's going to look beautiful. So the first lesson that I learnt about self-love is it's about self-acceptance. You can't truly love yourself until you accept yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that isn't always easy. When I was 29 and started to reflect, I reflect every year, but at the end of a decade was a little bit intimidating to actually look back on. But at the same time, it was really beautiful because I'd come so far. If I thought of the 19-year-old version of myself and the 29-year-old version of myself, 10 years, there is a lot of growth that happens. And that's even without continuous growth that whole time. So I had a goal. I had 12 weeks until I turned 30, and I was damn sure I was not finishing my 20s in a bad way. I was going to hit 30 thriving. I was going to push my body, not in a bad way, but push my body to see what it was able to achieve in 12 weeks. So I was consistently hitting the gym. I was eating really, really clean, no junk food, no alcohol for 12 weeks. My sleep wasn't always great because of the hours that I was working, but I knew that 12 weeks was enough time to get a great transformation. It's such a small amount of time over a whole year that I could go hard for 12 weeks. In that time, I thought, why not add another challenge to the mix? I wanted to get back to doing pull-ups. Statistically, women can do 0 pull-ups. They're a very hard lift, and as a trainer, when you want to teach someone something, you need to be able to show them. So I knew it was something that would be valuable. Every day for 31 days, I did 5 pull-ups. On the first day, I thought I'll just see what I can do. I managed to get kind of 1, so I thought this is going to be hard. At the end of day 31, I managed to get to 10, although the last 2 probably didn't count. I managed to do it. I was determined, right or wrong. Every single day, I showed up for myself. I had a goal. I knew what I needed to do to get there, and every single day, I showed up, I did the work, and over that time, I started to really feel the love that I was showing myself. I was respecting myself. I was being disciplined, and I was showing up with compassion on the days that maybe I didn't do it as well, but I still showed up anyway. Self-love isn't something you wait to feel. It is something that you practice every day through small choices. True self-love is about accepting yourself as you are, while working towards a better version of yourself and who you want to be. I'm going to just say that again. True self-love is about accepting yourself as you are, while working towards a better version of who you want to be. So something today that I'd like to leave you with, an action tip for each of these lessons. A daily thing that you can do, whether it be a daily walk, a little bit of movement like we've just done now, moving our limbs, getting some blood flowing through our body. Maybe it's practicing some gratitude like we did before, I am worthy of self-love. I am worthy of growth. Maybe it's journaling. Whatever it might be today that can actually help you to start connecting in with yourself again and really accepting who you are while you work towards who you want to be. The second lesson that I learned along the way is that growth requires getting uncomfortable. And no one wants to get uncomfortable. And even sometimes now I still don't like it, but I know how beautiful that can be when you come out the other side of the discomfort, when you really truly grow through that experience. Starting my business was definitely not comfortable. Trying to get my first client was really scary. And then I had to get another one, and then another one. And I had to continue to repeat that process. And now when someone approaches me, I just think if it's meant to be, it will just align. And a lot of people will come and go, and it doesn't align. And I'm okay with that, because sometimes the wrong energy, letting a weed come into my garden, is actually not okay with me anymore. Because not only have I accepted myself, but I now want to grow, and I'm okay with getting uncomfortable as long as it's the right sort of uncomfortable. Does anyone like doing jigsaw puzzles? Sudokus, crosswords, anything that challenges our mind? Wordle. Oh, I never really got into Wordle. Yeah, I'm not good with words, I'm good with numbers, so Sudoku was my thing. But I want to use the analogy of a jigsaw puzzle. When you're first starting out anything new or anything unfamiliar, it's like tipping a jigsaw puzzle out onto the table and thinking, oh my gosh, this is a mess. This is going to take forever. You start to turn the pieces over, you start to sort them out. I like to get all the border pieces out, get all the middle pieces, move them away. I don't need them right now, I'll focus on them another time. I get all the border pieces out and I find my corners. And piece by piece, I start to put together my border. I create my foundation. It is the same with movement and well-being. It's piece by piece, day by day, changing one small thing that's going to start to form a picture. If you try and do this without a visual of where you're going, so not having the picture of the puzzle that you're trying to create, it can make it really challenging. But if you've got a plan, if you've got goals, if you've got something that you're working towards, then at least you've got a picture and you know what you're trying to create. So over time, it could be days, weeks, months, or years, you piece together this beautiful puzzle. And that puzzle is our life. So we may never finish the puzzle. You get to the end and there's a missing piece and you don't know what that missing piece is. But if you get to the end and you can look back on that puzzle and it fills your heart with joy and with happiness, then that is so worth it. And you don't have to start your jigsaw puzzle in your 20s. You can start it in your 50s. You can start it in your 90s. My nan is in her 90s. She's 96 and she still does jigsaw puzzles, still lives at home, still looks after herself. Not only are jigsaw puzzles good for the mind, but for dexterity. And actually being able to use our hands as we get older is really, really important. Simple things like picking up a pen to be able to write. She struggles to do that now. She always did crosswords, but she still uses her hands as much as she can. So no matter how old you are, maybe it's time to start doing some jigsaw puzzles. Start challenging everyone. Picking weeds, yeah, physically pick the weeds. Not only is it great for your body, it's great for your garden, but starting to pick some weeds. Starting to do some activities that maybe you've forgotten that you enjoyed. That is another form of self-love, is doing things you used to do that filled your heart with happiness. We think we get to a certain age and we can't do that anymore. I'm too old. I've even used that phrase and then I think I'm not too old. I feel like I'm in my 20s. I have to remind myself sometimes I'm 31. But it's not about your age. It's about what you think. And if you think you can, you will. So getting back into exercise is a great way to boost your mood. It is a great way to build your confidence. It is a great way to create clarity. When we move our body, it actually frees up our mind. It not only helps us process emotions, good and bad, but it also helps us to relieve or alleviate stress. So moving our body is super fundamental in great health and in self-love. And rewiring the way you talk to yourself. That inner critic that we mentioned, or I mentioned earlier, can be our biggest roadblock, or it can be our greatest cheerleader. If we can start to turn I have to, such as I have to go for a walk, I have to go to the gym, I have to do the housework, to I get to. I get to go to the gym, I get to move my body, I get to live at home by myself still. Turning those I can'ts into I cans, or I don't into I do, or I am. So the lesson I want to leave for this one is that your thoughts become your reality. So make sure you're thinking the right reality into being. Growth isn't about never struggling. It's about showing up and doing the work even when it's hard. Growth isn't easy, growth isn't comfortable, but it is so worth it. Had I not taken the risk to move to Sydney and start my business, I would not be here, and I would not be waking up each day filled with joy and excitement for the day ahead. So I want you may not have a pen and paper, but most people have a phone. If you do have a pen and paper, I'd like you to take a moment to write down one negative or unhelpful thought that you've had. What is one weed that is growing in your garden? Just like the guy at the book tour that I went to a few years ago got me to do, and I wrote it on my phone, so I've never lost it. It's still here in my phone. What is one thing, one weed today that has been in your garden for too long? And if you don't have a pen and paper or a phone, just try and mentally write it down for later. Because then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to try and reframe that. Reframe that into something positive. So I've got one example here. I'm too busy for self-love or self-care. Because time was one of the main things that stops people from acting or taking action. 2, I prioritize time for myself because I deserve it. For no other reason than you deserve it. So how can you reframe that thing that you've written down, that weed? How could you replant it with a beautiful plant that's going to blossom? What is that one thing that you can write down? And then I want you to think about one brave action, because the opposite of action is inaction. So we now need to write down, and there's actually a study that says you're 70 to 80% more likely to achieve a goal if it's written down. And not written down and put somewhere you forget about it, but put it where you can see it every day. So I currently have a goal each day to journal, and it's on my bathroom mirror. So when I'm brushing my teeth at night, if I've forgotten to journal, I go and journal. It's written down and it's where I can see it. So one brave action that you could do today, and if it's out of your comfort zone, even better, that's going to help you towards that greater version of yourself, because we want to be accepting who we are and working towards who we want to become. And then the third lesson that I've learned along the way is it is so important to have boundaries around our daily actions and around the things that we do every single day, because as soon as those things that we're meant to do every single day stop happening every single day, that weed starts to grow. We want to stop these weeds as soon as we can, and daily habits, daily consistent things that we're doing that become just learned behaviors are so much easier than trying to restart. People that come into the gym and in 3 months' time they're not coming into the gym, it's a lot harder to come back into the gym again because you've already told yourself you can't. You've already told yourself you failed once, what's going to be different this time? So the third thing about having boundaries, I haven't always been health conscious and I have not always prioritized my own well-being, especially in my early 20s. And even as a trainer, people look at you as someone who should be living by example. That adds pressure, but it's only pressure that I'm going to accept if it's something that I truly want. So I'm still on my own journey and I will never stop. I will always be trying to improve not only my physical health, but my mental health. My focus this year is more around meditation and really connecting in with who I am and who I want to become. I've got daily habits around my physical well-being that I've instilled over years. It's actually harder for me now not to go for a walk 2 or 3 times a day because I need it. My body needs it, my mind needs it. It's how I process feelings and emotions. I've got great daily habits around my sleep routine. I go to bed pretty early because I get up pretty early. I never used to be a morning person. 7 o'clock was early. I used to rush out the door at, I'd get up at 8 o'clock and out the door by 7:15. I'm now up at 4:30, 5 o'clock. On the weekend, 6 o'clock's asleep in and I feel like I'm being lazy. So sometimes when you create these daily habits, you can then start to focus on other areas. That small daily thing that you do over a period of time becomes a habit. And when we have strong habits, we don't even have to worry about it. I love using the analogy of getting in your car. When you're a learner, remember when you first got in a car and how uncomfortable it felt and how scary it felt and how you had to really think about everything. I drive a manual and even now it's just so automatic. So it's the same with our habits. When we can do a little thing each day, those habits just become a learned behavior. You can get in your car and off you go. You wake up in the morning and you do your meditation, you go for a walk, you eat your healthy breakfast, you start your day, and it's 7 o'clock, people are still in bed. So I want you to really think about these daily habits and having boundaries around them. It's, for me, not negotiable. If I do 3 training sessions a week and it's got to Friday and I've only done 2, I'm training on the weekend. And I'm okay with that. But if someone goes, just skip it, you'll be fine, that's a boundary. They don't understand what it means to me, but I do. So I have to hold that boundary very firmly. Another analogy of daily habits is bank accounts. This is one that most people can relate to. If you want to save for a holiday, but you never put any money aside, at the end of the year when you want to go on that holiday, you've got no money. But if you put just $50 into a bank account, a separate bank account, you don't even look at it, it just comes out every paycheck. $50 goes in there at the end of the year, you've got $2,600 towards that holiday. It's the same thing with your habits. If you just go for a walk each day, it doesn't matter how far or how long, but each day you move your body, over years, that accumulates in good health. The more you move your body and look after your health, the less risk, doesn't avoid it, but the less risk you are at getting cardiovascular disease, cancer, and diabetes. So not only are you moving your body for the mental enrichment it's going to provide, but you're actually sometimes reducing those risks, which is so important. And the sooner you start, the better it is. You don't want to wait until you're 70 and you're in bad health. You want to start sooner rather than later, and it's never too late to start. One of my clients joined the gym at 69. 69, she's been at the gym for a year now. The first day I took her into the gym, I showed her the treadmill and she was clinging on so hard and walking at 3 kilometers per hour. And that was enough for her. She was out of her comfort zone. She was very much pushing herself. She now jogs on the treadmill. She lifts weights. She does things that she didn't think she was capable of doing. Because she trusts me, she trusts her body, and she's prepared to take daily action towards her better self. She's 70 now, and she's probably in better shape than she was in her 60s. So the lesson from this is that big changes don't happen overnight. Each day I'm still working on my body, I'm still working on my mind. It's those small daily things that you do over time that lead to massive growth and transformation. There is a rule, it's called the 1% rule. If you improve by 1% each day, over a year, you're 30% better. 37% better in 1 year. So I want you to commit to one habit. One habit today that you can take out of this room that's going to move you towards greater self-love and growth. I'm getting some nods. Does anyone want to share what their one habit is? Because when we share, we create accountability. Any brave people? Yes, Sandra?
To do my Tai Chi stretches every morning.
Yes.
Instead of
When you want to and when you need to.
consistently.
Tai Chi.
Inconsistency is, yeah,
It's hard to break. Write it down and put it somewhere, you'll see it.
I've just
Beautiful.
written it down.
Tai Chi, have an alarm that goes off.
Yeah.
Every morning, Tai Chi time.
Yeah,
You can snooze the alarm, but you know.
yeah.
And when you don't do the action, you're just reaffirming that you can't and that you
I
don't.
feel so good after I've done it.
Yeah.
Why do I sit and have another cup of coffee instead?
We feel so good when we eat good food, so why did I sit and eat a block of chocolate? You know, it's always the good things that we know how it makes us feel, but the more you do that, the easier it becomes. Would anyone else like to share their one habit? Yes.
I get back to my 4,000 steps every day.
Yes, 4,000 steps. Great target to have. Write it down, put it somewhere you'll see every day. Every time you go to open the fridge or whatever your habit might be, you know, sitting on the lounge, put it on the TV. Have you done your 4,000 steps? No Netflix for you until you've hit your 4,000 steps. Anyone else want to share? One more. Oh, your dog will love you. Absolutely. Walk your dog every day. It is good for her and you. Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing, ladies. Before I finish, I haven't even taken an hour, so I'm super excited. What I would like to do is we're going to get up and move again. The ladies earlier did try to get us all dancing, although I don't think they had the push that I have as a trainer. So we're all going to get up again, and if not, you can dance in your chair. We're going to play some music because... Oh. It's letting you listen to my latest podcast. And yes, I've got some people taking off shoes, which barefoot, I walk barefoot most days in the park. It is the best way to connect with the earth. It's a great way to actually use your feet. So if you want to take off your shoes, I don't have any problem with that, but we're just going to move whatever feels good for you. This song came to me on Monday when I was finalising my speech for today, and it just felt right. It felt right for today. It felt right when I played it in my lounge room and I was dancing around and I was so in the moment. So please feel free to shut down your eyes if you want to just take it, let this song take you to wherever it needs to take you with what I've shared today. It's a song on The Greatest Showman, This Is Me.
Oh, love that song.
So please stand up and move your body. Just let the music take you to wherever it needs to take you.
I'm not a stranger to the dark.
If you want to sing, you can even sing.
Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken hearts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down,
I love it. Take it to wherever you need it to take you. Shut your eyes, move your body, whatever it feels good for you. Just listen to the words.
who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me.
That's all right. Thank you for joining me, ladies, in a little bit of a dance, a little bit of a boogie, because movement is magical. Movement is how we mentally enrich not only ourselves and our lives, but the lives of the people around us that really matter to us. So in ending, the key takeaways that I want to leave you with is that self-love is about acceptance of yourself. It's about taking action daily. Growth is a journey and it requires stepping into discomfort. It's those small daily choices that really matter and they create the biggest impact. So my parting words for today are that the best project that you will ever work on is yourself. How you love yourself is how you teach other people to love you. When things change inside of you, things change around you. You deserve love. You deserve growth. You deserve success. So now go and take action. Thank you. I have a little affirmation card. They've got little nice sayings on them. And on the back, if you do want to follow me at all, there are my social media on the back there. So I'm just going to hand these around to you all.